Van Jones really thought this was his moment. Check it out.
For someone like Charlie Kirk, he should be ashamed of himself. No one mentioned the word race, white, black, or anything except him.
After initially ignoring the Charlotte tragedy and reluctantly covering it, mainstream outlets flooded the story with distractions, targeting Charlie Kirk among them. But his response cut through the noise and silenced the doubt.
And by the way, I did not bring up race. The attacker said, quote, "I got that white girl," end quote. People say, why does the race matter? Oh, it matters because you made us care about race in the summer of 2020.
That's why today we're covering it all, because we're not here to follow parties blindly. We're here for common sense. So if you're an independent thinker, hit the subscribe button and let's jump right into it.
I want to play, this is Charlie Kirk, why he says this hasn't gotten a lot of attention.
A white Ukrainian refugee was murdered just because she was white. Everybody knows that, obviously. If a random white person simply walked up to and stabbed a nice, law-abiding black person for no reason, it would be an apocalyptically huge national story used to impose national sweeping political changes on the whole country. Instead, Megan Basham, no one seems to care when a white woman gets stabbed to the death.
Wow. He said white a lot.
Well, we are talking about it here on ABC, so I guess.
True.
But also, I mean, people like Charlie Kirk, Van, they've been looking for opportunities to make this some sort of like reciprocal George Floyd situation. And that's the part that I think he's almost giving away the game. And it's sad to see a lot of people going along with it.
I'd say it's sad how our media ignored the story until they were forced to talk about it, just to establish a timeline of events. The crime itself happened on the 22nd of August, and the surveillance footage was released on the 5th of September by the Charlotte Area Transit System. The following day, people on X began picking, and by the 7th, it had gone viral. Despite the story exploding online, not a single MSM outlet covered it. To give you an idea of how far the silence went, Nayib Bukele shed light on it before our national media did, and Elon Musk also called him out. So what finally pushed them to cover it? Well, the president released a video statement on the 9th, and suddenly the media found their voice. That's 4 days of complete radio silence on a story that was at the center of legitimate debates. And I'll tell you why after we watch Van Jones's reaction.
You know, let me just say a couple of things. One is, what happened to that young woman was horrible. And it's everybody's nightmare. If you're in any public space, a subway, whatever, that something bad is going to happen to you or somebody you care about. So it does strike a chord. We don't know why that man did what he did. And for Charlie Kirk to say, we know he did it because she's white, when there's no evidence of that, it's just pure race mongering, hate mongering, it's wrong. Then he says that if something like that had happened the other way, there would be sweeping changes imposed on society. Where is the George Floyd Policing Act? It didn't pass. Even when you had a white police officer murder a black man on live television, the whole world saw, there were no sweeping changes. In fact, not one law was passed at the federal level. What happened was horrible, but it becomes an opportunity for people to jump on bandwagons. And then for someone like Charlie Kirk, he should be ashamed of himself. No one mentioned the word race, white, black, or anything except him.
Now, that's far from the truth, because this is what DeCarlos Brown Jr. said second after committing the heinous crime. Second, it's pretty ironic to hear Van Jones accusing others of race-mongering, considering he's built much of his public image across race-based narratives. For instance, after the George Floyd incident, he leaned hard into framing everything through a racial lens. He wrote an op-ed praising the unrest that followed as, quote, the Great Awakening. And even after Derek Chauvin's arrest, he appeared on CNN insisting that, quote, nothing's changed. This narrative became so central to his persona that just 2 days after the 2020 election, he did some theatrics on CNN. And of course, the New York Times ran a glowing piece titled, quote, Van Jones, breaking down on CNN, invokes George Floyd's words in declaring Trump's loss vindication. And part of the reason stories like Irina get ignored by the media is the fact that the details don't align with the progressive worldview. In left-leaning editorial rooms, covering this incident truthfully would be seen as giving the right a win. And that to them is worse than ignoring the truth altogether. Obviously, Charlie wasn't going to let Van Jones's comments slide. So here's what he said in response.
Here is the tweet that I sent out. Quote, if a random white person simply walked up to and stabbed a nice law-abiding black person for no reason, it would be an apocalyptically huge national story used to impose national sweeping political changes on the whole country. Of course this is true. Everybody knows this is true. Our media thirsts for stories like this. So we take a step back and say, well, what's really going on here? What's really going on here is a situation where Van Jones is acting like if I said something I did not say, when in reality, we're asking a very simple question, Mr. Jones. Very simple question, which is, will you apologize for all the criminal justice reform that you pushed forward that allowed these 14-time criminal offenders to walk the streets? Because you are the architect and the designer of constantly feeling bad for the criminal that then can kill more people like Irina Zarutska. And by the way, I did not bring up race. The attacker said, quote, I got that white girl, end quote. People say, why does the race matter? Oh, it matters because you made us care about race in the summer of 2020. Looks like you got to live up to the book of your own rules.
This was Charlie's last show, and you can clearly see why so many people are calling him a powerful voice on the right. He wasn't afraid to challenge established narratives or say what others were hesitant to. And in this case, he made a strong point. Van Jones and figures like him set the rules of the game. So, why act shocked when others start playing by them? Even Browns Jr.'s half-brother mentioned he shouldn't have been set free, saying, quote, I think they could pretty much prevent it then. When talking about the lax terms that the magistrate judge set for DeCarlos when he was released from jail for a prior arrest in January. The lax terms he's referring to are cashless bail, one of the most controversial reforms in recent years. It's a policy hailed by many progressive voices, but stories like this are one forcing people to reconsider its real-world consequences. If you noticed, Scott Jennings wasn't present on the CNN panel this time, but he shared his thoughts on his own show, and he made some valid points.
You know it, and I know it. And every honest person knows why the national media ignored this story and now portrays it in a way that sidesteps the terrible truths that we have learned. And I'll tell you one more thing. The victim here, Irina Zarutska, is simply the wrong kind of immigrant. Now, what do I mean by that? The national media narrative right now is that a white supremacist administration is brutalizing illegal immigrants simply because they are brown. That's the narrative. You hear it every night. And yet in this case, a legal immigrant to this country, a white immigrant, was brutalized and murdered by a violent African-American male. This does not fit the narrative. And when things don't fit the narrative, they are disappeared from reality by our media.
That's what it all boils down to. And it's pretty disgusting that we've reached a point where media outlets willfully ignore stories that don't align with their narrative. Tragedies like this shouldn't be brushed aside or politicized. They should spark meaningful, open conversations about what went wrong and how to prevent it from happening again. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this story. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, keep thinking.